Okay.
And as night falls here in Gaziantep in the southeast of Turkey, the number of people entering into the airport seeking shelter from the cold keeps rising. We're seeing more and more people trickle in, trying to either find warmth, some food, a place to spend the evening, and more trying to leave this area. This comes after those two earthquakes that shook the country almost a week ago. We've heard from many people throughout the day who are speaking to us, many who have been going to Istanbul, to their other family members, saying that despite that earthquake happening on Monday, there's been many aftershocks throughout the week, and they don't know when another big one may strike. One person we spoke to described how there was a constant shaking going on in their homes. They're scared to be in their houses. Many of them are staying in tented shelters. They're homeless. It is quite cold here. We've seen that temperatures are dropping and can feel the chill this evening.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It is exactly 9:30 a.m. That was a clip by our Salaamedia reporter live in Turkey, Hasina Gori. Let's welcome her to the program this morning. Assalamu alaikum, Hasina Gori. Welcome to the program. Welcome to the Salaamedia family. Lovely to be talking with you this morning.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for that welcome. And yes, we are coming to you from Turkey.
Lovely to have you on board. Can't wait to meet you in person, inshallah. How long are you going to be doing the coverage for us from Turkey?
Inshallah, for as long as we can get access to areas and bring voices from the ground, we will be doing coverage. Right now, we're still at the airport that I did that last clip from, and the temperatures dropped quite significantly last night, going to the negative to about -3 or -4. This morning in the early hours just before sunrise with a 0. We're sitting now at 4, which is a bit warmer. We are inside the airport and I can still feel the chill with a few layers. So I can just imagine those that are outside on the streets of Gaziantep and in the different communities. Because I think we need to put into perspective for people just the extent of the damage that has been done. There's 10 provinces that were affected by those two earthquakes that took place on Monday last week. And when we say provinces, we say quite a large distance and areas that, span, a large area with populous areas as well, very dense. What we know in Gaziantep is a sixth populous town in Turkey. And from where I am at the airport to get to where the actual destruction happened is about an hour away, and then to get to the area which is more affected, which is Karaman Marash, is about an hour and a half normally. But because of the damage that's been done and the logistics of getting on the road and, with the damage and lack of fuel and supplies, it can take quite a long time. Also getting there, there's nowhere to stay when you also get there. So people are staying in tents, they're staying on the floors. People that do have homes still that weren't damaged are scared to go back into the home because they're feeling tremors consistently. Almost 2,000 have been felt in the last week. Not as big as 7.8 as the one that, hit, but reaching at least 6, which is quite significant. So this is the situation, and it's been compounded by just snow in some areas, chill weather, and lack of supplies. People are in dire need. They left their homes. I feel some of them saying to us that they just grabbed what they could. They went back in and have tried to leave. The airport was closed until Wednesday last week, and they've only now been allowing flights out in the last few days, mainly for evacuation, most going to Istanbul, some to Ankara, and a few going into Izmir, looking for families that are in other areas. We've also seen Syrian refugees who have, come from Syria, to relocate here, who now are looking for another space. And this is just this situation that is a national disaster, as well as compounded by various other aspects, such as the weather and just aid not being able to get to people.
A very sad situation as far as the Syrian people are concerned, is it not? Because for them it is truly a double whammy. They sought refuge in Turkey, and now they are impacted by these double earthquakes. Whereas other Turkish families, inshallah, may have relatives that they can go to, the situation for the Syrian people might not be as welcoming, or might be very, very bleak indeed. And also regarding the movement of media, medical personnel, relief agencies, etc. Are you guys allowed to move around freely, to go to the sites of the disaster, to report from there? Or are the authorities kind of curbing your activities for in your own safety? So that's two different questions I've thrown at you.
So we'll start with the Syrian refugees, those that are in Turkey itself. As you said, many of them nowhere really to go. We saw a family of 9 yesterday saying they're going to their sister who's in Istanbul, hoping that they'll be able to just get temporary refuge. There is tented cities being put up by local NGOs, as well as various international agencies that come on board. But I think what is good to highlight is not just the Syrians that are here in Turkey, but also those that are in Syria itself that are still there. The road that leads and links Syria to Turkey has been damaged. The aid has been slowly trickling in, and amidst also the political tension that's going on in that area, that has caused also quite a strain on helping and assisting those that were affected, because the earthquake was also, the ripple effect of it was felt in Aleppo as well as Lebanon, and in some parts of Cyprus. It has far-reaching kind of tremors and shakes, and the disaster kind of went on that fault line itself. But with regards to media access and aid and relief, most of it has been organized by the Turkish government, and most are working with these organizations, one for safety, but also just because it's such a logistical nightmare. I know that there are other media houses that are with the aid organizations, and they were stuck on the roads trying to get into areas. I spoke with a Palestinian photographer yesterday who was leaving from this area back to Istanbul. He explained how in Kahramanmaraş he was staying in a tent, but here in Gaziantep he wasn't allowed to go into the area where the actual disaster or earthquake zone was, as the authorities were limiting access. I've spoken to others on the ground in Hatay and Adana. There's also a fear of just criminality and lawlessness that might take place, because as the cold, temperature drops, supplies dwindle, people are getting desperate. There's also anger. There's, uncertainty. So there have been reports I saw last night on Sky News where in this area, some residents were guarding their belongings and their buildings, because those that are opportunistic, criminals trying to get in and rob those buildings. So we've seen these different elements come in. The armies have been deployed to the ground as well, just to control and to assist in the situation. But given the mass level of the destruction and just the distance, it is going to be a long road from here for recovery, as well as to get those stories, but also it's a myth of hope, but also for many people, it's acceptance that those that were not found now in the rubble have, could be presumed dead, and it's an acceptance of that. So there's a mix of emotions. You see it here at the airport with people. It's this despondence, it's exhaustion, it's tiredness, and complete just hopelessness at some point of what will happen.
My final question then, we will talk again tomorrow, inshallah, around about the same time. You've mentioned Istanbul a couple of times, that planes have made their way out to Istanbul, taking the victims of the earthquakes to their families and relatives in Istanbul and other towns and cities outside of the disaster zone. What are you hearing from the Turkish people themselves, the authorities, regarding if everybody is making their way to Istanbul, it's going to start bursting at its seams. It's not going to be able to cater for that many refugees coming in. What's that story looking like?
On their family members, and going into a big good rate of hoping that there'll be an extra room right now. But I do know from what we've seen from the Turkish government side is that the organizations have been setting up and working and volunteering. You've seen this kind of hospitality from the Turkish people, even just sitting here at the airport. Last night we sat through the evening, and people just sharing whatever little they have. There was a man that was just passing around his baklava, to everyone that was sitting here. So it's this kind of notion that even if government itself is not going to help, but the hospitality, we saw that happening with people in Istanbul, flocking to the airport to try and volunteer and go into these areas for search and rescue missions going on. So right now, I don't think they have a concern of it being a refugee-specific situation. There was kind of a promise made by the president saying that they will rebuild the homes within a year. But what we know from geological reports so far is that this area is a very seismic active area, and that may be a concern for rebuilding. We saw also arrest warrants being brought out for some construction companies that they may have be seen to have built the buildings, not in accordance to guidelines, to ensure that, should an earthquake strike, they would be able to sustain the kind of impact. So there's a lot of different elements, going on at the moment. But I think for right now, it's to ensure that those who are out on the, streets, left destitute, have some kind of aid, have some kind of basic necessities, blankets, food. I did speak with some residents yesterday, and their concern is that people are going to get hypothermia, and we could see deaths coming on from that as well. So I think that is the first response that we're going to see in the coming few weeks, especially now that for most part search and rescue has been, dwindled down. We saw a lot of them returning yesterday here at the airport, returning back to their hometowns, and now it becomes a recovery for dead bodies. And I think that is also going to be that mourning that we're going to see as people, accept that life that was in bed at 4 a.m. when the disaster struck may have just never, come home. And also that life, as they know, it took 60 seconds for it to crumble. I think that's the kind of feelings we're getting that from people and the sense on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Hasina, till tomorrow morning around about the same time, you keep safe, you keep warm, and we will hook up again tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum salam.
That was Hasina Gori, Salaamedia reporter, live from Gaziantep in Turkey, bringing us a direct eyewitness account of what exactly is going down in Turkey post the 2 earthquakes last week. It is exactly 9:42. This is News and Views on Salaamedia. We're going to try and hook up now with Noor Ahmed and Shireen Saluji from the Palestine Solidarity Alliance, live from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia.